Nick Spicer. Nick, it was interesting to see the similarities and sometimes the differences in the tone between the French president and the German chancellor. Can't help but noticing, but it took 3 times asking the question for the chancellor to answer as to why Germany is not, for instance, providing weapons to Ukraine.
Yeah, and I don't think he answered it. I listened as carefully as I could and took notes, but obviously that is a question that is embarrassing Germany, all the more so that over the weekend, their top admiral, the head of the German Navy, said that Crimea was now part of Russia, that we should get used to it, and that Putin needed respect, and he was forced to resign. So all of that makes Germany look like a country that's basically getting in the way of the other countries that want to help Ukraine. And Scholz tried to reach out to the Ukrainians. He's been under attack from the Ukrainian foreign minister, who said that Germany is not helping, by the mayor of Kiev, Klitschko, who had an editorial published in Bild, the mass circulation daily here, which he said Germany's position of blocking weapons deliveries, which it is doing, is essentially non-assistance to a person in danger. It's blocking the shipment of howitzers it sold to Estonia to Ukraine. Estonia, former Soviet satellite country, wants to send them to Ukraine, and Germany is able to block that. So Scholz said, listen, we show lots of solidarity with Ukraine. We're committed to its democratic process. We're going to make sure that gas shipments to Ukraine are not stopped because of, and I'll just explain this, because of this new Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which goes directly to Germany. But that was not the question. It was, why won't you allow weapons to go to Ukraine? So you're absolutely right to put your finger on that question.
And just to be clear,
between the two countries, if you look at the
German just to be clear, Nick, on this question, yeah. It's because of the long-standing pacifist fiber in Germany's post-war political makeup?
Well, look, you have to explain to me why Germany is one of the top 5 weapons-selling countries every year and is happy to sell arms to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, which are waging wars in countries, Yemen and Libya, to name them, where the United Nations says war crimes are taking place. I don't know. No, I don't think pacifism necessarily has to do with it. A lot of people are putting forward the Nazi past in Ukraine, where German soldiers shot Russian soldiers. It's nearby. I think there is some history that is being used as an argument to explain Germany's position. I think it's probably worthwhile to include the economics of the situation. The fact that Germany gets 40% of its gas from Russia, has a big trade relationship with Russia, and is, the SPD, which is the lead party in the 3-party coalition government, is the party that created Ostpolitik, Eastpolitik under Willy Brandt during the Cold War, reaching out to the East. And so it's part of their DNA, but I think now it's really becoming almost a source of embarrassment to some Germans here, and certainly a painful spot when it comes to relations with Ukraine.
And Olaf Scholz, nonetheless, making it clear, as he did last week, that for now, Nord Stream 2, that pipeline that bypasses Ukraine, is on hold.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he said all things were on the... I think Anthony Blinken, who was here meeting with him, as you'll recall, Francois, was a little more clear about the German position than the German Chancellor was. At least that's how I read it. He said, look, Nord Stream 2 isn't pumping gas yet, so it's leverage for Germany, he said, not the German Chancellor. I think it's a difficult situation for the Germans. Let's remember that the former SPD Chancellor, Social Democratic Party Chancellor, Gerhard Schroeder, is actually sitting on the board of that Nord Stream 2 pipeline. They're really, stuck into it. He's no longer in power, but this is really part of the political and economic structure here in Germany. It's hard for them to extricate themselves, I think, from it to a certain extent.
All right, Nick Spicer in Berlin, many thanks. Much fodder there.